I'm taking all your clients, and there's nothing you can do about it." My sister laughed. I calmly smiled and said, "Good luck." When she opened the files, "My name is Alexandra Carter, and at 35, I never expected to be betrayed by my sister. But here I was standing in my office at Carter Consulting Group, watching Sarah wave a USB drive in front of me like a trophy. Her smirk said everything. She thought she'd won. "You always thought you were the smart one, didn't you, Alex?" Sarah's perfectly manicured nails tapped against my mahogany desk. "Always Dad's favorite, always the responsible one." "Well, guess what? I just downloaded your entire client database, and I will take everything you've built." I remained seated, my expression neutral as I watched my younger sister's triumph. At 32, Sarah had always been impulsive, the sister who thought success should come instantly without the years of hard work I put in. She stood before me in her designer suit, thinking she finally gotten the upper hand. "You really should update your password security," she continued, disappointed by my lack of reaction. "Using Mom's birthday. So predictable." I sipped my coffee, letting the silence stretch between us. "Are you done?" Her smile faltered slightly. "That's it? That's all you have to say?" "What would you like me to say, Sarah? That I'm surprised. Hurt. Should I beg you not to do this?" She straightened her shoulders, trying to reclaim her moment of victory. "I'm starting my consulting firm. By this time next month, every single one of your clients will be mine. I know everything about your business, Alex. Everything." I stood up slowly, smoothing my skirt as I walked to the window overlooking downtown Chicago. The city sprawled below, a maze of buildings and possibilities. "Sarah, I've always wondered when this day would come." "What's that supposed to mean?" I turned back to face her, seeing not the confident woman she was trying to project, but the little sister who used to steal my clothes and copy my homework. "You've been planning this for months, haven't you? Ever since Dad suggested you come work for me." Her silence was confirmation enough. "Tell me something," I continued. "When you accessed our system last night at 2 a.m., did you think about what you were stealing? Did you even look at the files?" "I don't need to look at them. I know your business inside and out. 3 years of working here, watching you run everything, thinking you're perfect." Her voice cracked slightly. "Well, now it's my turn." I returned to my desk and sat down, folding my hands before me. "You know what Mom used to say about shortcuts?" Sarah's face darkened at the mention of our mother. "Don't you dare bring her into this. She always said that the easy path teaches you nothing. She made us both start in the mailroom when we worked summer jobs at her company." "Spare me the lectures, Alex. I'm done living in your shadow." By this time next week, Carter Consulting Group will be old news, and Stevens Consulting will be the new player in town. I raised an eyebrow. "Stevens? Going back to your married name?" "It's better for business. Carter is too associated with you." She grabbed her designer handbag from the chair. "Don't bother trying to stop me. It'll be too late by the time you get your lawyers involved." As she reached the door, I called out, "Sarah?" She paused, her hand on the handle. "Good luck with those files," she said. She shot me one last triumphant look and walked out, her heels clicking against the hardwood floors of the office I'd built from scratch over the last decade. When the door closed, I picked up my phone and dialed a familiar number. "Marcus, it's time." She took the bait. "Activate protocol, sisters." My head of its calm and professional voice came through. "Already done, boss. The trackers are active, and everything's being logged. Do you want me to start the countdown?" "Yes. And Marcus, make sure we document everything. My sister's about to learn a valuable lesson about trust and technology." As I hung up, I couldn't help but think about how we'd gotten here. 10 years ago, when I started Carter Consulting Group, Sarah was still in college, more interested in parties than business. Our mother had just passed away, leaving me her client list from her consulting firm and a letter I'll never forget. "Alexandra, my darling, you're ready for this. Build something meaningful. But remember, success without integrity is nothing. And watch out for your sister. She has my ambition but your father's impatience. One day, she'll be your greatest ally or your biggest challenge. Be prepared for both." Mom had always seen things. After her death, I'd taken her advice and her clients, building a new consulting firm that focused on ethical business practices and long-term relationships. It wasn't the fastest path to success, but it was sustainable. 3 years ago, when Sarah showed up at my office, fresh from her divorce and looking for a job, I remembered Mom's words. I gave her a chance, starting her in account management. She was good. Excellent. She had Mom's charm and an instinct for client needs that couldn't be taught. But she was also impatient. I watched her grow frustrated with our methodical approach to growth. She wanted shortcuts, quick wins, and instant success. During meetings, she argued for aggressive expansion, riskier strategies, or anything to speed up the process. We could double our client base in 6 months if you just take some risks, she'd say, her eyes bright with ambition. Business isn't about speed, Sarah. It's about building something that lasts. She'd roll her eyes, just like she did when we were kids, and I tried to teach her the right way to do things. You sound just like Mom. 6 months ago, I noticed small changes in her behavior. She started staying late at the office, asking detailed questions about our security protocols, and suddenly showing interest in our infrastructure. To anyone else, this might have looked like professional development. To me, it was a warning sign. That's when I called Marcus. "Boss, want me to revoke her access?" He'd asked when I shared my concerns. "No," I replied, remembering Mom's lessons about playing the long game. "Let's give her exactly what she wants, but let's make sure we're ready." Together, we created Protocol Sisters, an elaborate system of fake files, trackers, and digital breadcrumbs. Every time Sarah accessed our system after hours, we knew. Every file she copied was tagged, and every client contact she downloaded was marked. And now, as she walked out of my office thinking she'd won, the actual plan was just beginning. I pulled up my email and sent a company-wide message. Team meeting in 30 minutes. Conference room A, mandatory attendance. As responses flooded in, I opened my drawer and took out Mom's letter, running my fingers over her familiar handwriting. Success without integrity is nothing. Sarah was about to learn that lesson the hard way. The next hour would be crucial. Sarah would rush to her new office, eager to contact our clients. She'd open those files, ready to begin her hostile takeover, only to find. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "She's accessing the files now. Do you want me to stream it to your screen?" I smiled, thinking about the expression on my sister's face right now. No need. Give her time to realize what she's stolen. I'll be in the conference room preparing the team. As I gathered my materials for the meeting, I thought about Sarah's words. "I know everything about your business." The irony was that she didn't know the most important thing, that her big sister had learned a lot from watching our mother run her company. The most valuable lesson: always be 3 steps ahead. The conference room filled quickly, my team of 30 taking their seats with curious expressions. These people weren't just employees but carefully chosen professionals who shared my vision of ethical business practices. Many of them had worked with my mother before me. As some of you may have noticed, I began, standing at the head of the table. Sarah Stevens, formerly Carter, has just resigned from her position. Rather dramatically, I might add. Murmurs rippled through the room. Everyone knew Sarah, her ambition, charm, and impatience with our methodical approach. What I'm about to share with you requires absolute discretion. Sarah didn't just resign, she stole what she believes to be our entire client database and plans to use it to start a competing firm. Gasps and angry mutters filled the room. Linda, our senior account manager who'd been with me since day one, spoke up. "But that's illegal. We should call the police." I held up my hand. "We're going to handle this differently, because what Sarah stole isn't quite what she thinks it is." Understanding dawned on some faces, particularly those with the company longest. They knew how I operated, always preparing, always protecting, just like Mom taught me. For the next few weeks, we will proceed with business as usual. Our real clients are safely secured in our encrypted database. What Sarah has? I allowed myself a small smile. Well, she's about to learn a valuable lesson about trust and verification. As I outlined the plan to my team, I felt a mixture of sadness and determination. This wasn't how I wanted things to go with my sister. But sometimes, the hardest lessons are the most necessary ones. My phone buzzed again, another text from Marcus. "Boss, she's tried opening the files 3 times now. Do you want me to send you the security footage from her new office?" I declined again. I didn't need to see Sarah's face to know what was happening. The files she'd stolen, the ones she thought would give her instant success, were an elaborate setup. Each client contact was slightly wrong, email addresses with subtle typos, phone numbers with transposed digits. and company names with minor misspellings, just enough to make every attempt at contact fail. With each attempt, our system would log her actions, building a case that would protect us legally while teaching her the cost of betrayal. The meeting concluded with a clear strategy for the coming weeks. As my team filed out, Linda stayed behind. "Alex," she said softly, "I remember when your mother handled a similar situation with her former partner. She was just as calm as you are now." I smiled, thinking of Mom's steady hand at the helm of her company. She taught me that business isn't just about profits, it's about principles. Sarah forgot that. Would she come back, do you think, when she realizes? I looked out the conference room window at the Chicago skyline, thinking about my sister and the long road ahead. That depends on what she learns from this. Sometimes, the hardest falls teach us how to stand up stronger. As the day drew close, I sat in my office, watching the sunset over the city. My phone had been silent for hours. No angry calls from Sarah, no desperate messages. She was probably still trying to figure out what had gone wrong, too proud to admit defeat. But I knew my sister. The real storm was coming, and when it did, I had to be ready not just to weather it, but also to help her find her way back, if she chose to take that path. Mom echoed in my mind. She'll either be your greatest ally or your biggest challenge. Right now, she was the latter. But tomorrow? That would depend on what Sarah learned from her first real lesson in business ethics. I picked up my phone and typed a simple message to Marcus. Start phase 2. The response came immediately. You sure, boss? Once we start, there's no going back. I'm sure. Sometimes tough love is the only way. As I gathered my things to head home, I thought about Sarah sitting in her new office, realizing that her shortcut to success had led her straight into a dead end. It wasn't the end of her story or ours. It was just the beginning of a much more important lesson. Phase 2 would begin tomorrow. With it, the real test of character for both of us. The morning sun streamed through my office windows as I reviewed Marcus's overnight report. Sarah had spent hours trying to access the corrupted files, making precisely 47 attempts to contact what she thought were our clients. Each attempt was meticulously logged in our system, creating an ironclad record of her actions. She finally gave up around 3 a.m., Marcus reported, his voice tinged with professional satisfaction and personal concern. Want to see what she sent? I nodded, and he pulled up an email on my screen. The message Sarah had drafted was intended to be professional and persuasive. Dear client name, I'm reaching out regarding your consulting needs. As the former senior account manager at Carter Consulting Group, I'm excited to offer you superior service through my new venture, Stevens Consulting. The email was perfect, except for every single address it was sent to bounce back. Some immediately, others after a delay, creating a cascade of failure notifications throughout the night. She's going to figure it out soon, Marcus warned. The patterns of corruption in those files aren't random. Someone with her experience will eventually see the deliberate nature of the changes. That's exactly what I'm counting on, I replied, thinking about phase 2 of our plan. Has she tried re-accessing our system? 3 times since midnight. Each attempt is more desperate than the last. Want me to block her credentials completely? I shook my head. No, let her keep trying. Every attempt is more evidence of what she intended to do. Just then, my office door burst open. Sarah stood there, her usually perfect appearance showing signs of strain. Her designer suit was slightly wrinkled, her hair not quite as polished as usual, and her eyes blazed with a mixture of fury and desperation. What did you do? She demanded, storming toward my desk. I remained seated, maintaining my calm demeanor. Good morning, Sarah. I see you've had a busy night. The files, they're all wrong. Every single one of them. This isn't funny, Alex. Fix it. Fix what? The files you stole? The database you illegally accessed? Please, be specific about which crime you'd like me to help you correct. Her face flushed. Don't play games with me. You knew I would take those files. You set me up. I stood slowly, meeting her gaze. Yes, I did. Just like I knew you'd been planning this betrayal for months. Did you think I wouldn't protect my company, our mother's legacy, from someone who clearly doesn't understand the value of trust? I understand plenty, she spat. I understand that you've been holding me back, just like always. Making me follow your precious protocols, your ethical guidelines, and your careful timelines. Some of us want to succeed in this lifetime, Alex. And how's that working out for you? I asked quietly. How many potential clients have you managed to contact with those stolen files? She flinched, and I knew the number was 0. Every email bounced, every phone number led nowhere, and every carefully crafted pitch had fallen into the digital void. You know what Mom would say about this? I continued. Don't you dare bring her into this again, Sarah warned, but her voice wavered. She would say that success built on betrayal is like a house built on sand. It might look impressive momentarily, but it won't stand. Save your metaphors, Sarah snapped. I want the real client list, now. I walked to my window, looking out at the city we both loved, the business world we tried to conquer in our ways. No, that's it? Just no. That's right, no, but I will give you something else. A choice. She crossed her arms, suspicion evident in her expression. What kind of choice? Option 1. You continue down this path. Try to build your business on stolen data that doesn't work, face potential legal consequences for corporate espionage, and burn every bridge you have in this industry. Option 2. You learn from this. Learn what? That my sister is just as manipulative as everyone says? I turned back to face her. Learn that there are no shortcuts to success. Learn that trust, once broken, is harder to rebuild than any business. Learn what Mom tried to teach us both, that integrity matters more than quick profits. Sarah sank into one of my office chairs, the fight seemingly draining out of her. You've ruined everything. I invested all my savings in the new office space. I hired staff. I promised people things. You did all that before you even had a viable client base? Before you had proven your business model? That's exactly the kind of reckless behavior Mom warned us about. Not everyone can be perfect like you, Alex, she said bitterly. I'm not perfect, Sarah. I just understand that building something meaningful takes time. Remember when Mom started her company? She worked out of our garage for 2 years before she could afford a real office. That was different. Times have changed. Have they? Has the importance of trust changed? Has the value of real relationships with clients changed? Sarah was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. When she finally spoke, her voice was smaller, more like the little sister I remembered. What am I supposed to do now? This was the moment I'd been waiting for, the opportunity to help her grow or watch her fall completely. Phase 2 depended entirely on how she responded to what I said next. That depends, I said carefully. Are you ready to learn how to build something real? Something that will last? She looked up, confusion replacing some of the anger in her eyes. What do you mean? I sat across from her, remembering all the times Mom had sat with us at the kitchen table, teaching us about business, life, and the importance of doing things the right way. I mean, are you ready to start over? Not as my employee or rival, but as someone who wants to create something meaningful. Start over. I just spent everything I had on this venture. I can't just. I held up my hand. Let me finish. What if I told you there's a way to turn this around? A way that doesn't involve stealing or shortcuts, but will require something much harder from you. What's that? Humility, patience, and a willingness to learn from your mistakes instead of running from them. Sarah's eyes narrowed. Why would you help me after what I did? Why not just let me fail? I thought about Mom's letter, her warning that Sarah could be either my greatest ally or my biggest challenge. Because you're my sister, and because Mom believed in second chances, but only for those willing to earn them. What exactly are you proposing? I opened my laptop and turned it toward her. On the screen was a business plan, one I prepared weeks ago, knowing this day might come. This proposal for a new division of Carter Consulting, focusing on emerging technologies and startups. It needs someone ambitious, someone who understands both traditional consulting and modern business needs, someone willing to work hard and build something from the ground up. The right way this time. Sarah stared at the screen, then back at me. You want me to run this? After everything? No, I corrected her. I want you to earn the right to run this. It won't be easy. You'll start at the bottom, prove yourself, and learn every aspect of ethical business practices. And if you succeed, really succeed, then yes, this division could be yours. The silence that followed was heavy with possibility. I could see the wheels turning in Sarah's mind. The battle between her pride and ambition, her anger, and her need to prove herself. How long? She finally asked. 2 years minimum. No shortcuts, no special treatment. You'll work harder than you've ever worked before and do it under close supervision. Every step will be earned, every promotion justified. And if I refuse? I close the laptop slowly. Then those files you stole will be turned over to our lawyers, along with complete documentation of your corporate espionage attempt. Your choice. Sarah stood and walked to the window, her reflection showing the internal struggle playing out on her face. This moment would define not just her future, but our relationship as sisters. 2 years is a long time, she said finally. Building something worthwhile usually is. She turned back to me, and for the first time in years, I saw a glimpse of the sister I used to know. The one who would come to me for help with homework and looked up to me before competition and jealousy got in the way. When do I start? I allowed myself a small smile. That depends on what you do next. The following day, Sarah arrived at the office precisely 15 minutes early, wearing a simple black suit instead of her usual designer labels. She carried a notebook rather than her expensive leather portfolio, and the look in her eyes was different, more determined than defiant. Where do I start? She asked, standing in my office doorway. I gestured to a desk visible through the glass walls, a simple workstation in the open office, not the private office she'd occupied before. That's your new space. Marcus will set you up with basic system access. Read only, no client contact yet. She nodded, accepting the demotion without complaint. As she turned to leave, I called after her. Sarah, your first task is to document everything you did with those stolen files. Every attempt to contact clients, every email, every plan you made. Complete honesty, that's your baseline for moving forward. Everything? She hesitated. Everything. You can't fix what you won't acknowledge. For the next week, I watched as Sarah immersed herself in the task. She worked late, documenting her actions in meticulous detail. Her report revealed more than just the attempted theft. It showed a pattern of increasing desperation, of corners cut, and of ethics compromised long before the final betrayal. Marcus kept me updated on her system activity. She's doing it right, boss, he reported. There have been no attempts to access restricted areas or communication with outside contacts. She's staying in her lane. One evening, as the office emptied, I found Sarah still at her desk, staring at her computer screen. It's almost 8, I said, stopping by her workstation. She looked up, exhaustion evident on her face. I'm almost finished with the report. There's so much I didn't want to see before. So many times I could have made different choices. I pulled up a chair. Tell me about it. Remember last year's client meeting with Davidson Corp? When their CFO mentioned those accounting irregularities? I nodded, remembering how Sarah had glossed over the issue, pushing for a quick contract signing. I knew something was wrong, she admitted. But I was so focused on landing the big account, proving I could bring in major clients, I convinced myself it wasn't our problem to solve. What would you do differently now? She met my eyes steadily. I'd report it, help them fix the issue before it becomes a larger problem. That's what Mom would have done, isn't it? Yes, it is. And that's exactly what I did after you moved on to other accounts. Sarah's eyes widened. You knew? Of course I knew. I've been cleaning up behind you for 3 years, Sarah. Every shortcut, every overlooked detail, every ethical gray area you danced around. I fixed it all. Because that's what Mom taught me to do. Protect the business and protect my sister, even from herself. Tears welled in her eyes. Why didn't you ever say anything? Would you have listened? Or would you have seen it as another example of your big sister showing you up? She wiped her eyes quickly. I messed up, didn't I? Yes, you did. But you're fixing it now. That counts for something. The following month brought gradual changes. Sarah threw herself into learning every aspect of ethical business practices. She attended training sessions without complaint, took detailed notes during meetings, and started asking questions about proper procedures instead of looking for workarounds. One morning, Linda stopped by my office, closing the door behind her. Your sister just caught a major error in the Johnson proposal, she said. A discrepancy that could have cost us the account if it had gone through. Did she try to fix it herself? Linda shook her head. No, she brought it straight to me. Said she wanted to make sure we handled it through proper channels. I smiled. Progress. 3 months into Sarah's probationary period, I received an unexpected email from her. Can we meet? There's something I need to show you. She carried a familiar-looking journal when she came to my office that afternoon. I found Mom's old business diary, she said, placing it on my desk. I've been reading it every night. Did you know she almost lost everything in her third year of business? I nodded. The Martinez account. A competitor tried to poach her biggest client. But instead of fighting dirty or giving up, she innovated. She created a new service model that made her indispensable to her clients. Sarah's eyes shone with newfound understanding. She built something better instead of tearing someone else down. That's right. Alex, I've been thinking about the new division you propose. The one for emerging technologies. What about it? She pulled out her notebook, opening to a carefully prepared presentation. I have some ideas, not shortcuts or quick fixes, but real innovations. Ways we could help startup clients build ethical foundations from the ground up. Would you be willing to look at them? I studied my sister's face, seeing not the arrogant woman who had tried to steal my client list, but someone new, or perhaps someone who'd been there all along, just waiting for the right moment to emerge. Show me, I said. For the next hour, Sarah walked me through her proposals. They were thoughtful, detailed, and most importantly, built on principles of sustainable growth and ethical business practices. This is good work, I admitted when she finished. Good. I've been studying Mom's approaches, combining them with what I've learned about modern startup challenges. I think there's a way to honor her legacy while adapting to current market needs. And you're willing to build this properly? No rushing, no cutting corners. She met my gaze firmly. I want to do it right this time, not just to prove myself to you, but also because I finally understand what Mom was trying to teach us. Success without integrity isn't success at all. After Sarah left, I pulled out Mom's letter again that evening. Your sister will either be your greatest ally or your biggest challenge, she'd written. Looking at Sarah's proposals spread across my desk, I wondered if maybe she could be both, if the challenge of helping her improve could make us both stronger. I picked up my phone and called Marcus. Start phase 3, I said. You sure? It's only been 3 months. I'm sure. She's ready for the next test. As I hung up, I looked at the family photo on my wall. Mom, Sarah, and me at the opening of Mom's first real office. We were all smiling, united in purpose and pride. Maybe we could find our way back to that, not by erasing the past few months, but by building something new from the lessons learned. Phase 3 would show whether Sarah's changes were fundamental or just another performance. But I felt genuinely hopeful about the outcome for the first time since this all began. The next day would bring new challenges, but we were finally moving in the right direction. Together, just as Mom had always hoped we would be. 6 months after Sarah's attempted betrayal, Carter Consulting Group was hosting its annual client appreciation event. The venue, a rooftop garden overlooking Chicago's skyline, buzzed with conversation as clients, employees, and industry partners mingled under the early evening sky. Sarah stood at the entrance, greeting guests with a quiet confidence different from her old artificial charm. She wore a simple blue dress, Mom's favorite color, and the diamond earring she gave her for her college graduation. Miss Stevens called out James Davidson, the CFO whose accounting irregularities Sarah had once ignored. Thank you for your help with our compliance review last month. Your attention to detail saved us from what could have been a serious issue. I watched from across the room as Sarah engaged with him professionally, with no trace of her former aggressive sales tactics. I'm glad we could help establish better protocols, she replied. Preventing problems is always better than fixing them later. My sister's transformation over the past 6 months has been remarkable. Phase 3 of our plan, gradually reintegrating her into client relationships while maintaining strict oversight, had revealed a new side of Sarah. Or perhaps it had uncovered who she'd always been beneath the desperation to prove herself. Marcus appeared at my elbow, tablet in hand. Latest client satisfaction numbers, he said, showing me the screen. Sarah's division is outperforming projections by 23%. And all above board. No shortcuts. He grinned. The opposite. She's implemented extra verification steps for all new client onboarding. Some of the team thought it was excessive, but she insisted on doing it right or not at all. I smiled, remembering Mom's exact words in her business diary. Do it right or not at all. There are no acceptable shortcuts in building trust. As the evening progressed, I went to the podium for the annual company address. The sunset painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, reminiscent of the views from Mom's old office. 20 years ago, I began. Our mother started this company with a simple principle: success and integrity are inseparable. Today, we're not just continuing that legacy but expanding it. I caught Sarah's eye in the crowd. She looked nervous, unaware of what was coming next. I'm pleased to announce that Carter Consulting Group is launching a new division focused on emerging technologies and startup ethics. This division will help new businesses build strong foundations based on principles of sustainable growth and corporate responsibility. Applause filled the room. Several of our tech industry clients nodded approvingly. Leading this initiative will be someone who has demonstrated business acumen and the more important quality our mother valued: the ability to learn from mistakes and emerge stronger. Sarah Stevens will serve as division director, effective immediately. The room erupted in applause again. Sarah stood frozen, tears welling in her eyes. This promotion had come 6 months earlier than promised. But she'd earned it, not through shortcuts or manipulation, but through genuine growth and hard work. As the applause died, I continued. Additionally, I'm announcing a change to our company's name. Moving forward, we will be known as Carter and Stevens Consulting Group. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. This wasn't part of our original agreement. This was something more. Because sometimes, I said, looking at my sister, the strongest partnerships are forged through overcoming challenges together. After the announcement, Sarah found me on the quiet side of the rooftop. "Why?" she asked. I leaned against the railing, looking out at the city lights. "Remember what Mom used to say about second chances? That they're not given, they're earned. You earned this, Sarah, not by being perfect, but by being brave enough to change." She joined me at the railing. "I found something in Mom's diary last week," she said. "A note about us. Did you know she worried we'd end up rivals or partners?" I smiled. She might have mentioned it. She wrote that our different approaches to business, your careful planning and my ambitious drive, could tear the company apart or make it stronger than ever. She was right, wasn't she? She usually was. Sarah turned to face me. "I need to tell you something. That night, when I stole the client list, I wasn't just doing it for myself. I was trying to prove something." "What?" "That I could be more than just your little sister, more than the family's disappointment. I wanted to show everyone I could build something independently. And now," she smiled softly, "now I understand that building something together is better than tearing things apart alone." Just then, Linda approached with a small package. "I found this while cleaning out the old storage room," she said, handing it to me. "I thought you might want it." Inside was a framed photo I hadn't seen in years. Mom sitting at her desk with Sarah and me on either side of her. All three of us laughing at some forgotten joke. "I remember this," Sarah said, touching the glass gently. "It was right after she landed the Westbrook account. She let us help prepare the presentation. She said we were her secret weapons," I recalled. "You with your creative solutions and me with my attention to detail. We made a good team back then. We make a better one now." Sarah and I found ourselves alone on a rooftop as the party wound down. The city hummed below us, full of possibilities. "You know," Sarah said, "I never properly thanked you." "For what?" "For stopping me from making the biggest mistake of my life. Thank you for giving me a chance to fix things. For believing in me even when I didn't believe in myself." I thought about the past 6 months, the long hours Sarah had put in, the humble way she'd rebuilt trust with the team, and the innovative ideas she developed for helping startup clients establish ethical foundations. "Mom always said that true success isn't about winning," I replied. "It's about growing." She also said family is the hardest business of all, Sarah laughed. "But worth the investment." We stood in comfortable silence, watching the city lights twinkle. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, clients to advise, ethical dilemmas to navigate, and a growing company to lead. But for the first time since Mom's passing, it felt like we were truly carrying on her legacy, not just as business leaders, but as sisters. "Ready for tomorrow?" I asked. Sarah smiled, looking more like herself, her authentic self, than she had in years. "Ready for everything." As we left the rooftop, I thought about Mom's final words in her letter. "Remember, girls, the strongest foundations are built on forgiveness, trust, and the courage to begin again." Sarah and I had found that courage, rebuilt that trust, and in doing so, created something even stronger than before. Not just a successful business, but a true partnership, forged in the fire of betrayal and tempered by the power of redemption. Carter and Stevens Consulting Group stood as a testament to that journey, a reminder that sometimes the most complex challenges lead to the most meaningful victories, and that it's never too late to choose a better path. Mom would have been proud.